Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back to some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode is a big deal. It's a big episode with a lot to unpack. And we're going to see how we can apply it to your business. But it's about awakening spiritual intelligence to grow your business. Fun topic. And kind of a theme recently on this show. If you've been subscribed and you've listened to the last few episodes. So very cool guest with me today, Yossi Amram. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm excited, delighted, and jazzed up to be here with you.
Same here. I'm excited to meet you and unpack this topic. So this idea of awakening spiritual or the power of spiritually intelligent leadership, I think is fascinating. And we just had a couple episodes ago actually had an episode about the power of consciousness at work and creating a whole leadership position about a conscious executive to help lead and guide the organization. So it's obviously something's in the water these days, and we need a new way to run our businesses. So where did you come about this topic from? What was your path to start talking about this?
Oh my God, that's a long life story. It's I'll try and spend 1 minute to tell my life, which is only 3 years. No, it's going to take a lot more. But basically, I had been a founder CEO of 2 companies. I had the good fortune and the blessing of taking both of them public. But I also along the way got burnt out. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And our business model was changing with the coming of the internet. It's a long story, but I had what you might call a spiritual awakening, which in the midst of that, which kind of threw me also into a manic episode. So it was a mind-blowing experience, and I got pushed out of the company. It was very traumatic for me, and it's a long story. But out of that, I was trying to understand the reality of what I experienced, and this, everything was made of consciousness, and we're all interconnected, and how much was that was real, how much was that was delusional. And I was trying to understand myself, so I went back and studied psychology. I was coaching and mentoring other entrepreneurs and CEOs, and I wanted to work deeper with them. I wanted to understand myself, and I had known about emotional intelligence as being very powerful and important in helping explain leadership and well-being. And I heard the term spiritual intelligence, which I thought was a great parallel, but there was no real definition, operational, or a scientifically validated measure. If you want to study something scientifically, you got to define it operationally and know how to measure it so you could see how it relates to other variables. And that's what my doctoral research was about. And so, my research showed that with a study with 42 CEOs and 210 members of their staff, that leaders that were had higher spiritual intelligence were more effective leaders. They produced higher team morale, greater commitment, lower turnover. And that was the case even when you control for emotional intelligence. So if I were to talk dirty a little bit, meaning nerdy, emotional intelligence explained 41% of the variance in the outcome of leadership effectiveness. Spiritual intelligence explained a larger amount, which was 46%. And combined, they explained 67% of the outcome of. So it means that the two are complementary and multiplicative. Since then, other researchers that have taken my definition and measure of spiritual intelligence found that leaders that have greater spiritual intelligence produce better financial results for their business units compared to others. And something that hasn't been shown for emotional intelligence. Not to knock down emotional intelligence, super important, but I'm just saying it's as important or more important. And there's been studies that in banks where the average level of spiritual intelligence of the employees is higher than others, they produce higher ROI compared to others. So the point is, it may sound woo-woo and whatever, but all of this lines up with science and logic, and there's a good research basis that it pays to the bottom line. So not only people feel more empowered, connected, inspired, feeling good about themselves and their contribution, it's actually good business. And that's what interests me, is that kind of win-win for the individual and the organization. So I could talk more about what that actually means, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. Well, first and foremost, I've heard too many woo-woo things that are then backed by science and then very, very real to just cast anything out as woo-woo before we really unpack it. So that's first and foremost. And I know you're onto something here because I've seen it in multiple companies and in my own. So I know there's something here. Can we take a step back and really unpack what you mean by spiritual intelligence? Because I think that's important to define in the context of this conversation. Is that a particular religion, denomination? Is it a monk? Is it taking peyote in the desert? I mean, what is exactly spiritual intelligence?
Okay, good. I'm glad you're asking the natural, obvious, hard question. So yeah, spiritual intelligence has nothing to do with a particular religion or even a particular spiritual orientation. Over the years, I've worked with over 100 CEOs. Many of them built companies with thousands of employees, billions of dollars in revenues, and they've spanned the range of people who are devout religious in their practice, some that were agnostic, some that were called spiritual but not religious, and some that were devout atheists. So it has nothing to do with religion, etc. Why is it called spiritual intelligence? They say, well, basically what spiritual intelligence is the ability to draw on and embody qualities that have been hailed by all the world's spiritual traditions for thousands of years. What are those qualities? They're things like purpose, service, gratitude, trust, humility, presence, and so on. And so in my research, interviewing people across all the world's wisdom traditions, regardless of their cosmology, theology, whatever, these are the qualities that they talk about: is purpose, service, trust, gratitude, joy, forgiveness, compassion, etc. And so this is analogous to emotional intelligence, where emotional intelligence is the ability to draw on emotional resources and information to help manage emotions in ourselves and others. Spiritual intelligence is the ability to draw on and embody spiritual resources and qualities, embody them in daily life. So the distinction between spiritual intelligence and spiritual belief: you might believe in God, you might believe in the eternity of the soul, you might believe in oneness, I don't know, whatever it is your belief, that's a spiritual belief, and that's nice. But and then you have spiritual experience. You might be meditating, praying, your ego dissolves, you're walking in nature, you feel one with nature, etc. And that's a spiritual experience. But what spiritual intelligence is, how you embody these qualities and resources in a team meeting. When you have conflict, etc., how much does your ego then get in the way, and you're trying to prove yourself right as opposed to doing what is right? It's how it shows up in your family, in your relationship. When you drive on the freeway, I can go to church on Sunday and, pray and do all this stuff and feel connected. But then I go on the freeway and it's a dog-eat-dog world. I'm boxed in this metal car, and we're all trying to get in and out of the freeway, or I'm in line in the supermarket. So spiritual intelligence is the ability to embody these qualities and resources in daily life. Now, what's exciting is I mentioned that these are qualities that have been celebrated through all the world's traditions for thousands of years. Now, in the modern world, we have this field of positive psychology that was started by Marty Seligman, and they developed a measure called Character Strength Inventory and Values in Action. And they have 24 qualities of positive psychology that include things like gratitude and and humor and transcendence and forgiveness and service, etc. Over half of those map one-to-one with these qualities of spiritual intelligence that emerge in my research. So there's an overlap between positive psychology and ancient wisdom. And then in the field of leadership development, Bain & Company, one of the top management consulting companies in the world, did a study with thousands of companies. And what they found is that inspired employees are twice as productive as people that are just going about doing their job to earn a paycheck. And then they looked at what were the leadership qualities and the cultural qualities in those organizations that got people inspired. And again, over half of them mapped directly into these qualities of spiritual intelligence. So these were leaders that were servant-oriented. They had a strong purpose. They had a strong vision. They were good listeners. They were centered. They were present with people. So again, you have convergence with wisdom traditions that talked about these virtues for thousands of years. You have positive psychology, modern research, and then you have leadership development research and theory that talk again about the same quality of the servanthood and integrity and gratitude and so on. So that's, to me, what's exciting is you have multiple lines of evidence coming from different fields, which is the highest quality is replicability and convergence in science. What is considered good science? And we have convergence and replicability of research. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's clear that it works, it's powerful, and not only is it good for just being a human being, but it's good for business too. And bridging that gap is super important. The flip side of that question is, I think a lot of people understand this, even as leaders or employees. The question then becomes, if you want to elevate your spiritual intelligence in the workplace for your company, how do you go about doing that? I know it's not a belief system; it's these actual practices that we can put into place, but without it feeling forced, and also without it feeling like it's just purely for business gains. Like, how do we position it and help our teams integrate this in their lives, so that it's best for them, it's best for the company, it's best for the community and the world as a whole, really?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So, but let's, I'll answer your question, but let's step back and say, well, what is leadership and what makes an organization function like an organism that has a purpose, that has coherence, that is working in harmony within itself? So, the first thing is you have to have a sense of purpose. And what is when you say spiritual intelligence, the root word is spirit. Spirit is the animating breath of life. So in an organism, as a human being, we have a life force that animates us, and we have a sense of purpose. When we have a sense of purpose and a mission and a calling, we're energized. Our life has meaning, has significance, and we have deep motivation. So ideally, we find an alignment between our personal sense of purpose and calling and what the organization has. So whatever my personal gifts and talents and superpowers as an individual, I want to actualize them. Life gave me a gift of life plus my talents, whatever it is, whether I'm a great programmer, I'm a great listener, I have a great sense of humor, I'm a great musician, or I'm great with numbers, and maybe I should be in accounting, or I'm whatever it might be. So we want to use our talents because that's what we're naturally going to be good at, and then we're going to enjoy it. We actualize it. We use it to contribute. So we want to look for alignment between people and ours to start with as the leader, our personal purpose, and the organizational mission and vision. And then you want to be outspoken and clear about what that vision of the world you're trying to build. So you're in service of something, in service of your customers, you're in service of your shareholders, you're in service of your employees, you're in service of your community, and all of that lines up. And then people that resonate with that vision and that mission and that sense of purpose are drawn to you. And then we express gratitude. So another quality, so I'm talking so far about purpose and service. The other things would be like the quality of gratitude. We know that when we appreciate people, they're more motivated. So we want, as leaders, as an organization, to build a culture where we appreciate each other, the good work that people are doing. That creates a motivation, that creates a human bond and connection. And then we also want to bring our hearts, and I might use a outrageous word, bring our love to work, not in the romantic sense. It's an office, it's a professional environment. But when I express my appreciation to others, that's an expression of love that is appropriate in a work environment. The other thing I want to do, it's an expression of love, is my presence and my attention. Our most scarce resource in life is our attention, moment to moment. Life passes by. Now, I'm talking to you. I sense your presence. You're attending to me. You're listening, your body language. If I sensed you're thinking about tomorrow or what happened yesterday with your family or whatever, I'm not going to be so motivated. Well, why am I expressing so much? He's distracted. He's looking at his phone, his text messages. He's not here. So bringing our presence, our attention to the person and the issue at hand is a way of respecting them and showing them that we care and what they're doing is important and valuable. So we want to bring that into the entire organization, and we want to synthesize, as opposed to marketing versus sales or engineering. Everybody has a contribution, everybody has a role to play, just like in the human body, in our organism. And each cell has its function, its role. It's unique, it's an individual cell, but it's embedded in an organ that has a particular role and function, whether it's a liver, whether it's a kidney, whether it's a thyroid. Same as in an organization, whether you're an individual in the engineering team, the sales team, the marketing team, the finance team, you're part of an organ, a department, a business unit that then comes together. So you have to care about the whole thing, and every part, every cell, even though they all come from the same DNA, from the same stem cell, they're all valuable, they're all contributing, and they're all working in harmony. A cell that cares about itself, that protects itself through the immune system, but doesn't care about what happens elsewhere in the organism, eventually cancer takes over the body and everything dies. So you get, in work environments, you get these political things, people come in with an ego, it becomes toxic. And I think that zaps the life force energy, and nobody's having fun, nobody's motivated to bring their best to work. So I hope I'm making sense in explaining how this is practical. This is like how human beings work. We want to be part of something, to feel like our gifts are used, our talents is appreciated. People give us the respect in being present when we are interacting, and our contribution is valued. And that just all makes eminent sense. And it's particularly important when we have a loneliness epidemic and people spend the bulk of their waking hours at work. So to feel like that I am part of a community where I'm working towards a mission and a purpose and a vision that I believe in gives my life meaning, gives my life a significance. I feel like I'm working in a team, in an organization where there's mutuality of care, and people care about me, not just as a cog in the machine.
I mean, I think we've all had that experience where you felt like the cog in the machine, and that you weren't a fit, or maybe the culture in general, they just didn't have that purpose. There wasn't a really solid leader. But on the flip side, I think we've all worked with people who are like the cancer, right? And they only really care about themselves, and they're not there for the greater purpose. I think those things in organizations, it's imperative to see those people out, or to get them on the same frequency if possible. But everything you're saying, yeah, I mean, it has such real world applications that are they're so important to grow a business off of this mindset. And I mean, one of the things, it was, you went over it so quickly, but it struck me from what you just said was the greatest resource that you can give is your presence. Everyone always says the most limited and finite resource is your time, but I've never thought about it in that way, because you could be physically with somebody. Like, we could be having this conversation. You can have the 20 minutes of my time. If I'm not paying attention to you, you really have nothing for me. So to actually put that energy into giving somebody your attention and your presence, that takes that statement to a whole new level. So Just want to pull that out as a little gold nugget from today's episode. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for your time and attention. We say it's a cliche, but when you think about it, it's but our life is made of moment to moment attention, and it's our scarcest resource. I can give you $1, but it's a commodity. I can get another $1, and I haven't lost it. I'm back to where I was. But when I spend a moment and time and my attention on something, that's gone, and I might get another moment, but eventually we run out of moments, and that's the end of our life. So that's the valuable, most scarce resource, is our time and attention, and giving it to someone is a sign of respect. And whether it's at work or with your kids. I mean, we come home, we give our family, our partner, we're entrepreneurs. I know many years when I was an entrepreneur CEO, I was always thinking about work. I come home, my kids are trying to get my attention. My wife is trying to talk to me at the dinner table. I'm thinking about, how we're going to close the next round of financing. How am I going to meet my payroll? So that all affects the quality of our relationships. And people feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so important to understand that. I wish more people understood that earlier in life. And I think that's your goal here. So I really appreciate you coming, Yossi. This is a fantastic conversation. Where can the listeners learn more about you, what you have going on, and how they can incorporate this more into their daily lives, but also their workplaces?
Yeah, well, I have a website called yossiamram.net, just by name, and it links to, and then this is my other website, yamram.com, that you flashed. So yeah, it speaks about my coaching work. It has links to my book that you could buy on Amazon, Spiritually Intelligent Leadership, that outlines these 25 competencies of spiritually intelligent leadership around the domain of meaning, around the domain of presence, around the domain of truth, and so on. And the book has case studies from my clients. It's very practical, down to earth, and then there are exercises on how to practice and develop these capacities. So there are many resources you can navigate from there. I also have a YouTube channel, Awakening Spiritual Intelligence, so people could get some shorts and longer talks I've given about the topic. And there are many resources, but I think yamram.com is a good place to start, or yossiamram.net. Either one will get you to me.
We'll put those down in the show notes, all of those links, wherever you're watching or listening. So go check that out. And Yossi, thanks so much again for stopping by.
Thank you, Brandon. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.